I don't know.
You're supposed to be on the ODivaZ, right?
Mm-hmm. Probably won't do fan. Hello, hello. Good day. Anyone can hear me? Something wrong with my Discord.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with your Discord.
No. The lady said with hers.
Ready?
No. Hold on. Not having the push to talk is a pain. Hello, hello. Who else do we have on Discord?
The night train is showing.
Who?
The night train?
Oh. Okay, we're ready to get started here. Hello, everyone. Great to have you join this ride. Damn. Space button, right? Yeah. Great to have you join this ride. We're going to roll at 1.5 to 2 watts per kilogram. It is a recovery, easy pace ride. Please say something if you can hear me. I don't think people can hear me. We're going to ride the classic route, which is a flat route. And everybody's welcome to ask questions if they would have topics they want to talk about. It's the purpose of the ride. We're also streaming live on Facebook Live by ODivaZ. I recognize many of the riders here. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to talk, you need to push the button on your Discord app so that others can hear you. Make sure you have push to talk. So this is the very first ODivaZ ride, Chat and Chill. This ride will happen every Monday at 6 Central U.S. time, 1 p.m. GMT. And so the goal is to build a community that wants to have this ride on Mondays and talk about any topics really of interest to them. It could be training, it could be nutrition. And a lot of us spend a lot of time on the weekends on the bike. Perhaps we had a race, perhaps we had a large training block. So Monday seems to be a good day to have an easy recovery ride. I know that as part of my training, Mondays are always an easy ride, and that was also the purpose for having this one on the calendar. I recognize so many of you. Thank you for joining. And I hope we'll have more interaction going forward. It's a rather quiet crowd today. So I just came back from a camp. Last week I spent 5 days climbing from North Carolina to Virginia. It was 300 miles and a total of 30,000 feet of climbing. So my legs are really tired today.
So Theia, what do you think about Zwift? Prepared you or didn't prepare you for that?
So Zwift certainly was a big help for that camp, and especially on the endurance part of it. Just being able to be on the bike for such a long period of time. When you get used to being on a trainer for a long period of time, then being in a saddle out in real life almost become easy. For example, I had this ride on Thursday, which was almost 9 hours with 10,000 feet of climbing. And I saw so many of the riders that were with me fading towards the end, and I was able to hang on just because I'm so used to being on the trainer that really being outside almost seems easy. I also think I would not have had the time to train so much if it wasn't for Zwift. So just being able to put that many hours of training, thanks to Zwift. How about for you? Have you done any outdoor rides yet? Long ones?
So outdoor riding for me is a luxury. I don't get to experience it very often, but I have an 80 miler coming up in a couple weeks. So that will be the longest yet for sure.
Yeah, this is about the time that we get to go outside. The weather starts to get a little better. If you're in North America, I'm assuming. Just giving instructions for Discord here for some of the riders who are not familiar with that feature. The ladies' race on Saturday was exciting. Wow. So many participants, and I always get comments about the participants saying that they pushed themselves so hard on that one, which is also really useful for training. When you think of it, you spend so much time at threshold, above threshold, that you start to get comfortable with that discomfort. So one of the very important things about training is resting and recovery. And when I first started Zwifting, I used to find that very difficult to do. Just because you are on course, you're with others, and before you know it, you're going for that sprint jersey or the volcano jersey, and there goes your recovery. But it's really important to stay with it. Yeah. I often say that recovery is like the baking of the cake, where the ingredients are all your training sessions, your hard efforts, and your recovery is the baking of that cake, is where it all comes to be, where it all materializes. And that's really one of the principles of structured training, is having the rest and recovery built in so you can have the gains that you're looking for.
What cadence do you recommend on a recovery ride?
That can vary from person to person. Unless you're doing a hard climb, I would say I usually tell my athletes at least 75 to 80 RPM. Most people seem comfortable at 85 to 95 RPM. Once you go very low in your cadence, below 70, you're working a different system really, and it can be, over time, can be hard on the joints. A lot of people complain of knee pains if they have low cadence. What do you feel like is your comfortable cadence?
Well, I've been trying to work on that because I tend to be a big gear pusher and ride a really low cadence. So I'm trying to spin more, be more efficient, because I will settle in at around 70 or 75. But I think that I feel better after a ride if I'm more at 80 to 85.
There are some workouts that help with that, and they're not the most fun to do, but they are very efficient. So those are the pedaling drills that we call. So it could be like a high cadence interval where you go to 100 to and above 100 RPM. And there's also the ones that are single-legged. So you go, let's say, 30 seconds with one leg, 30 seconds with the other leg. Again, they're not the most fun to do, but they really help over time. Have you done some of the workouts in Zwift, the ones available in the menu?
I've done some of the Zwift Academy workouts and then some of the FTP boulders. I think I'm up all the way up to week 7 or 8, but I haven't been consistent about it because sometimes I just rather ride around.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I've been hearing that a lot of the new riders tend to start with the FTP builder, which makes sense. So how often do you do intensity in a week?
Just a couple of times.
So a typical week for me would be intensities on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and then the other days are endurance type rides, with Sunday being usually the long one. All right, let's hear the question. Or you can type it. You can also type the question in. So if I understood the question is whether or not to shave. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear the answers then? It's always an interesting topic for the ladies about the shaving part. I think that's personal preference. I say that because I know riders who are 100% hands down in favor of shaving everything, while others would say, no, don't do it because that's nature's way of protecting your skin, and it's much better if you don't shave. That way you have that buffer. I think more important than that is the saddle that you use and the fit of your bike, your shorts. There's so many things that come into play. There was a discussion about that on the latest Facebook page not too long ago. And again, just some riders saying yes, shave it, the others saying no. I think where the majority of the opinion is that not shaving is bad. That's what I keep hearing. Well, thanks for the feedback. I see you can hear me. That's good. It's okay if you cannot talk. We can still have the conversation, and you can still type in your questions. In fact, if you can hear me and you have any topics you want me to talk about, please just drop it in line, and we can talk about those. I just love having a group to ride with on a Recovery Monday.
Agreed. Great idea.
For those of you who can hear me, how many rides do you do a week? Okay, so I heard Sonia say 5 times a week. Probably more times that you would normally if you didn't have Zwift. When I started training, addicted to Zwift, I think we all are. When I started training, I started with only 2 rides a week. Started building from there. Because really at the beginning you have to also build your cycling muscles. Second ride of the day, I know that. I saw you on the app earlier. I would say, in my case, I ride every day. Wow, 4 a.m. That's amazing. So glad you joined. Oh, great. I'm glad you can hear me. That's fine. We can keep the conversation going this way as well. So 400 kilometers a week. That's great. Riding on Zwift definitely counts. In fact, being on a trainer makes you a stronger rider, in my opinion. There's no coasting, there's no stop signs, no stoplights. So you really become a stronger rider. You're always pedaling. Maybe you're trying to keep up with a group. Maybe you're racing. There are workouts. I recommend to my athletes that even during the summer, they do at least 1 or 2 intensity sessions indoors a week. It sounds like Sweden is very much like Chicago, where I'm at. We still have cold weather. This weekend, it was in the 40s, which is about 5 degrees Celsius. It really doesn't warm up until June. So are the rides that you guys do on Zwift typically group rides or also workouts? Is it a mix? No on Saturday, wow. Okay, so I heard mostly workouts. Oh, the coaches challenge. I'm curious about that. How is that going? Or actually, are you still doing it or were you doing it last week? The coaches challenge. Oh, brutal. Brutal. Yeah? Oh, well, they're supposed to be challenging, especially because they're back to back. Which one has been the hardest for you so far? Oh, the first one was the hardest. Okay. Minuteman. I have to check that one out. So I hope this will become a good channel for conversation and exchange of information over time, that others will also join the sport and we can have a good chat. Now, I know some of you were racing on Saturday on the ladies' race, so ODivaZ ladies' race. That's also a fun event with great broadcasts. This weekend I wasn't racing, so I was able to pay more attention to the broadcast and the dynamics of the race. It's really exciting. You feel like you're watching pro cyclists. Great.
This is Alice again. I think I'm the only other one who can talk. So, the broadcast was also really motivating. I probably hung in there longer than I would have otherwise with the A group because I kept hearing my name called out and didn't want them to announce that I was dropped.
Is that Alice?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I know. It's true. It's very motivating, and I heard them talking about you too, and you were going so strong in that race.
I figured out the best strategy is just to really, really go from the gun as hard as I can to get with the fastest group, and then just hang on as long as I can.
Yes, and if you think about it, right, because then you say to yourself, that front group will try to separate early on, and if you can hang on with them, at some point they're going to settle at a pace that you might be able to sustain, and that way you can hang on to their wheel. So the more I do these races, the more I know the racers, and I know the wheels I can hang on to, the wheels that I can't. So I know some of the riders who are going to hold 4 watts per kilogram, which is something I won't be able to do. But then I try to go on a breakaway too. And there were instances where I was left in no woman's land with no one to draft because I was trying to hang on to that very front group, but they were going too hard for me. And then if I fell back, I would lose too many positions, and so I was caught in the middle. That's a tough place to be. I have learned a lot in these races, and sometimes I'll mention to people who are not on Zwift that I race every other Saturday on Zwift, and they look at me and they don't know what to think. But I really think it helps. Oh, yes. Haseko, what's your first name? Somehow I'm not able to see that on the app. Ah, Veronica, oh, great. Thank you. So 1 month for your back surgery. I hope everything goes well. I'm sure it will. We'll miss you. Do you know how long you're going to be off the bike? So I think Veronica is spending all of her time on Zwift before she has to take a break from it. So for those who can hear me again, just before you get on the bike for, let's say, a ride like today, it might be morning your time, it might be afternoon, evening. Do you eat anything right before your ride? And if so, what do you eat? No food, coffee, lots and lots of coffee.
Coffee and Quaker oatmeal squares before every workout for the past 5 years.
Okay. Yes, so kudos to those of you who can ride with no food before. So this ride starts at 6 a.m. my time. Sleep deprivation, lots of coffee, oh my goodness. So I usually have to eat something, a quick, easy, simple carb type bar, like a fig bar. I probably don't need it, but it's first thing in the morning, and first thing in the morning, your glycogen stores are a little bit depleted from the night. So of course, this is an easy recovery ride. You're not going to be burning your matches. You're not going to be burning a lot of glycogen on this ride. It's fat as your primary source for a recovery easy pace ride. If you can do it only on coffee or water, great. The way to go. So Sonia had a question about bike handling skills and the way to practice them. Yes, see, I'm not English, but I also only drink tea. I love tea. All kinds of teas. The nice thing about tea is the variety. You just have different tastes for different teas. So, but for bike handling, you have to be in a group and you have to be outside, and it all depends on the type of bike handling you want to learn about. Of course, if you're a road rider, they are the basic, everybody should have the same basic skills, you know, the drafting, being efficient on the bike. And the best way of doing that is being with that group on the road. Being by yourself, too, can be good because you have to battle the elements on your own, and you get used to the wind, etc. But it's more of a power versus handling skill. So being in a group and hopefully having more experienced riders in that group who can watch you ride and give you some pointers on, no, you need to get more aero, this is how you draft, or if you have a crosswind, you just say to, let's say the wind is coming from the left, you say to the right of the rider in front of you without overlapping wheels. And then there's the handling for cross bikes and riding on gravel. Again, those are learned by doing. Everything I learned in terms of bike handling skills that I'm still learning was through more experienced riders and coaches who were on rides with me and would watch me and point things out and say, oh, you know, you're doing this and it's not very efficient, change it, do it the other way. Well, thank you. I really, really enjoy having the group. This idea came up when, well, for two ways. I lead the Tuesday intensity workouts for Zwift Academy. And I always want to interact with the riders, but in an intensity ride, it's almost impossible to do. And so I figured, gosh, it would be great to have a ride where we can actually chat and share knowledge. There's so much among all the riders, and so many times we're in events together. So this can be that ride and a way to spend time on a Monday. So Sonia, yes, if you spend a lot of time on Zwift, there's not much time left for riding outdoors. I guess you could, is there a club near you? Because that's a good way to, or a group that rides together. How do you usually go about your outdoor rides? Do you do them solo? And that's a question for everyone.
Hey, can I interject real quick? I think I've got you sorted, Theia, for push to talk. You may have to change your settings back and forth on the app, but I think you should be able to talk without push to talk now.
Thanks, Pat. I think
it's Justin.
Okay, thank you. I'm with a laptop, not a laptop, I'm with a desktop, so I might not be able to do it mid-ride, but for the next one, it'll be perfect. Thank you. So Sonia said she has 4 kids, and your husband is gone during the week, right? Wow. Thank goodness for Zwift. You're busy. How about weekends? Can you be a weekend warrior? Perhaps one ride every other weekend outdoors? But really, it's all dependent on goals. Some of you might have outdoor events and races that you're preparing for. But it doesn't need to be the case. you might just want to be on Zwift. There's so much going on Zwift. It's incredible. Yeah, with the nicer weather, it's easier to get out. But the thing about Zwift, you can do recovery rides, you can do races, you can do all sorts of group rides, and you can slip in. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I have group rides that require me to drive 30 minutes to get to the group and then drive back 30 minutes. And when I think about that time, that's 1 hour I could be on Zwift. Yeah. Yes, there's that issue too. You might get stuck in traffic, so you're sitting there with your bike in your car, 45 minutes, time going by, and you think to yourself, I could be riding. So your hour and a half planned ride could have been a 3-hour ride if you're on Zwift. How about Zwift Academy? Who here is planning on joining Zwift Academy when that officially starts? Okay, so many of you are planning to join Zwift Academy. For those of you who are not familiar with that, it's a program that Zwift put in place for the first time last year in conjunction with Canyon SRAM to identify talent and choose a rider to be offered a pro contract on the Canyon SRAM team. So last year, the program lasts a couple of months. You enroll, you participate in group rides, workouts. There's a mandatory number of workouts that you're supposed to complete. And then you might be selected to pass on the next phase, and then the finals. And then you might be offered a pro contract if you're the winner, or you will be if you're the winner. So last year, Leah Thorbenson was selected. And if you go to the Zwift Academy Facebook page, you can read all about her and her journey since being selected, which is so interesting. You go from being a rider in Zwift to joining a pro team. But what I heard too is a lot of the participants are not necessarily looking to be a pro rider. They're looking to get stronger. They're looking to build a community, meet other riders around the world, and just having that motivation that comes with a program like that. And I think the program's going to start pretty soon in June. So how many workouts you did it last year, how many workouts did you have to do a week? Huh. 3-4 workouts a week, yes. Okay, and plus 1 to 2 group rides. So it is quite the commitment there. But again, if you're not looking for a pro contract, you don't need to be doing all of them. But of course, there's a motivation and you do them. I know in there's also an FTP test, because you need to know what your maximum power is so you can adjust your workouts accordingly, although Zwift does that automatically for you. Died at both FTPs. So there were 2 tests, I guess, one at the beginning and one towards the middle to the end. Okay. And so did you see an increase in your FTP? Okay, so 2 FTP tests, one at the beginning, one in the middle, and there was a slight increase in that number. Okay, good. FTP tests are hard. I assumed that was a 20-minute test. So there's a couple of tricks about taking FTP tests. It's good to have some rest, a day or two, depending on your fitness and how much you're used to riding. Before you take the test, you should have a break so that your legs are fresh. And during the test, the 20-minute, for example, if you start too hard, chances are you'll get tired halfway through it or along the way. And it's so easy to fade because it is hard. So a good approach might be you pace yourself, you start the test for the 20 minutes at your current FTP for the first, let's say, minute, and then you increase slightly to something you think you might be able to hold for the 20 minutes. It's mentally challenging, so. But if you race, if you race every other Saturday with your ODivaZ, I'm telling you, I usually spend 40 minutes, which is the whole race, at a power that is equal to my FTP. That's how much I push myself, so I'm hoping that in my next FTP test, I'll do better. It's really about getting comfortable with the pain and your heart beating off your chest. You're telling yourself, no, I'm okay, I'm not going to die from this. That would be awesome. And I can send you a link about the race after we're done with this ride, so you can look at the live stream or the broadcast of last Saturday's race, so you can have an idea. So this ride will always happen on Mondays, and we'll have always it be on a flat course, so we can keep that slow pace. What are some of the things that people like to talk about or want to talk about in, let's say, next week's ride? different types of races. We can definitely talk about those. Who here races on Zwift? Aside from the ODivaZ, I know many of you joined that one. Any other races that you joined on Zwift? Okay, so for your answer of never did a race, I had never done a race on Zwift before I started the ODivaZ races. I was so worried about joining a race. I was always scared of being in the pen, waiting for the race to start, that gate dropping, the virtual gate, and everybody just taking off so fast that I would be left behind. And that's when the idea came that we should do a neutral rollout. So the race that we do with ODivaZ is the ladies race, we start neutral at this pace that we are at right now for, let's say, the first 4 minutes or so. Then we start the race. Yeah. And the race categories are also adjusted to the ladies' FTPs or power to weight, so that an A group or A category for the race is 3.5 watts per kilogram and above, or 3.2, I can't remember, but it's lower than you normally see for a mixed gender race category. So there are many, many riders in the A, B, and C category. And the more you do these things, just like everything, the more you do them, the more you get used to them, and they're no longer something to be scared about or anxious about because, well, after you've done a few, you know what to expect. I also heard that Zwift Academy this year, for those of you who are planning to join, I think they're going to incorporate virtual racing into that program as well this year. Yeah. If I may ask, how long have you been riding on Zwift for? Veronica, you're right. The women and men categories for the mixed gender race will be good to have separated so that we can see the women's category stacking up separately. Wonderful. So we have anywhere from 3 months to 6 months last fall, 1 year since the last Zwift Academy, 1+ years 8 months. Okay. Are there any Zwift specific questions about group rides or events that you still have, perhaps for those of you who have been riding in Zwift for fewer months, 6 months, 3 months? So, of course, many of you were riders before Zwift, and then you joined Zwift recently. Using heart rate monitor, I guess, as a way of training, not necessarily power. And now you have power to use as a tool. So I have 2 athletes who have been cycling for a while, but never really paid attention to training, instructor training. So they want to get stronger because they said, you know, I go on this group ride, but it's just slow, and I want to go in a faster group. And so I started the structure training with them. They're in the process of buying a power meter. They've never trained with power before. And they are now training with heart rate just until they get a power meter. So that can be based on heart rate. It can be rate of perceived exertion, which is how you feel on a scale of, let's say, if you follow Friestedt scale, you go on a rate of perceived exertion from 6 to 20 to try to gauge how fast or how hard you're going, not how fast, but how hard you're going on your workouts, which can be tricky, but it's a way to start. So I guess another topic of interest is types of bikes. Would that be, I'm assuming, outdoor bikes, or bikes to ride outdoors with, or trainer bikes? Both. Both, okay. Definitely something we can talk about. Why don't we start with the trainers today? What type of trainers are you using at home? So we have Tech Neo. I have that one too. Tech Flow. And that other one, that Kicker Snap. I have Kicker Snap, Wahoo. I think I saw Turbo. Tech Smart. Yes, Kicker is expensive. The Tech Neo is also expensive.
They sell used kickers, and they have them on outlet every once in a while.
So there are used kickers for sale, and once in a while they also have an outlet, so you could buy those at a lower price. Maybe it's worth checking it out if you're interested.
Kicker has refurbished ones too.
And Kicker also has refurbished ones.
They sell every once in a while.
Yeah. So we are about 2.5 minutes to the end of our ride here. I'm so glad that you joined today. We can keep this conversation going. We can cover topics of interest. We can talk about outdoor bikes next time. We can talk a bit more about races. Perhaps check out that Discord feature so you can push to talk. That way you don't have to try to type as you're writing. But typing is fine too, if you're comfortable with that. Really looking to have more and more of you join. Thanks for joining. It's my pleasure leading. I really enjoy it.
Yes, thank you. This went by so much faster than my usual recovery ride.
Well, thanks. And I hope I'll see some of you tomorrow on the Zwift Academy intensity workout. We're going to do some VO2 efforts, everyone's favorite. It is an hour, but you can always stay longer if you want to. Thank you so much again, ladies. I hope I will see you again and again. Quasi. Have a great day, evening, everyone. See you soon. Mm-hmm.